Go. Erin, can you say hello to the camera? Okay, season recap. So where are we? So overall, I'd say the season was very topsy-turvy, up and down, full of roller coasters. If you've been following the journey from the start, we've tried to be fully transparent and show the highs and lows, and you can kind of navigate everything. But the hardest thing to navigate is 1 injury and 2 illness. The things you can control are the controllables, i.e. your preparation, the sleep you have, food you eat. And we controlled the controllables, or at least what we could control ourselves. And some of it worked, some of it didn't. And now we're on the back of, I had a stag do this weekend in Krakow, Poland. Oh, and boy, am I feeling it. Our training philosophy has always been minimal mileage and tons of cross training, but we had changed that recently, and in the winter months we got in excess of 50 to 60 mile a week, because the reality is you can't get fast at running by cycling, swimming and using an elliptical. Sorry, you can get strong at running, but running's a skill that you have to practice repeatedly, and then you become more economy, because running's just as much about talent and physical ability as it is about a repetitive process. And in that skill, when you practice it, you become more and more efficient. So I guess I sort of bought into that philosophy of, I entered a track where I was so good at cross training that when it comes to the running felt easy. But the issue we had was I was so fit aerobically, but I simply just couldn't keep up with the breakdowns because my calves got tearing repeatedly, and it was always the aponeurosis between the tendon junction, and it was because I was so aerobically capable, but I simply just could not handle the pounding, the stimulus on the load. So the 4:30 miles for tempo and the 5-minute miles and the long runs, it all felt physically, it wasn't demanding. But my issue was, it was that I was so aerobically strong, my tendons, ligaments and muscles just couldn't handle the load. So there is a dark side to cross training. So although we've just built the man cave, it's a top up stimulus. So if we can get our mileage up even higher again, because I can handle it, it's just about doing a slower build up rather than being slow in our process. I just snatched at everything, and if coach said he wanted 3 by a mile, I'd want 5 by a mile, and if coach said he wanted a tempo pace of 5:15, I want 4:55. And I think it was my downfall, yeah, a big downfall, because it just meant that I couldn't ever really get into a flow, because when coach would ask for 4:55, he would use science behind it, and there would be theory behind why we want that pace and a slow build up, but I'd always want more, and we always get a few idiots. Growing up, I was that guy that last rep was always important to me, and I would always smash it, and I didn't care that it pissed people off, and it just doesn't work. I think the philosophy is slow and steady wins the race, and be calculated, because if you compare 1 hard run a week at a 4-mile distance, running maybe 10 to 15 seconds quicker compared to a 6 to 7 mile run a week at a marginally slower pace over a period of time, all that's going to happen is that slower pace, as you get fitter, gradually increases and gets better and quicker, and there, as you build the foundation, that pace increases and there's less stress on the body. Whereas if you go into the faster pace where you're stressing the system too often, you're just increasing the rate of injury by this much. And let's just say your injury rate was this much at every run, and you had more load over the course of time, the injury risk stays at here, but the pace picks up. I guess the idea is periodizing it and understanding that. Don't be an idiot like I have most of my career, and just be slow. One thing I can say is a weekend in Krakow and then coming back into it, bloody hard work. But let's go back to the start. Where did we start? We started the season in France, and we opened up in the quickest I've opened for both the 8 and the 15. We were placing incredibly high in every race, and then just like that, I was thinking to myself, I've increased my mileage, I'm gonna run good here, I'm gonna run very quick. But very quickly that fell off a cliff. Meg, we're gonna have to pause a minute, I really need a wee. My friends in the group have a really rude name for me, Leaky something, beginning with a C. I'm not going to say it on YouTube or PG here, but I just can't hold it in. I always need a wee, and I'm lucky I even got to 2 mile there, but that's a bad sign. We started so well, and then we picked up illness at Europeans, and I think people thought I might medal at Euros, but I'm going to be honest with you now, I made the heats and semis look easy because I outwitted the guys I was racing against, not because I was physically there. I was struggling with my breathing, but I kept it quiet, and I was in a bad place, and the illness came out afterwards. And yeah, COVID, I guess, in summary, COVID hit, and yeah, locked me for 6, and then almost from Europeans onwards, it was just a downhill battle whereby I struggled and picked up a chest infection. As you've seen in previous videos you've been following, I had a ton of mucus on my chest for months and months, and it only really mainly affected me the breathing side. Mucus was just there all the time. I was coughing up gunk all the time, and just thought, I'm over the COVID, maybe it's just post-COVID, but it turned out to be a chest infection. Had it for months, and it wasn't until I raced in Monaco, because I ran a 3:31 early on, way earlier than we predicted we'd run it, and I felt incredible doing it. And I kid you not, as soon as I ran that race, it was like I fell off a cliff. Yeah, I believe it was Lausanne, and ever since running Lausanne, I feel like I just fell off a cliff where my body just went into like a bit of just like an illness phase where I'm not sure what it was, but I just picked up a bug because I was shaking before I ran. It was after Lausanne, it was like 2 days afterwards. I got laying in Stockholm, that was it. And then in Stockholm I was the only in Stockholm. It wasn't great, not ideal really. And then Stockholm happened, not much I could have done about it. Raced quite bad, and it just got to Europeans and then picked up COVID, and then yeah, it was bad, and I didn't get it checked out properly until eventually British Champs was awful. I ran the 800 because, and I was in agreement with my coach. My heart and lungs just couldn't keep up at the time, so I felt like the 800 was a better move for myself, because the plan was the 15 all year. That was always the plan, but I just couldn't get the training done or the runs without blowing a gasket aerobically. So we ended up going with the 8 because that's where my training was trending to. I was performing better in the 800 than the 800 session, so it made sense to go for that because I just couldn't get the air into my lungs. Just the way it went. Ran British Champs, and I actually think I ran the race better than I thought I would, despite the fall. I did panic on the back straight, and then of course there was the trip. Let's not go into that. It's racing, it happens. I think the only people who don't really care and are sim past it are the 2 guys involved, whereas of course there's a lot of other opinions on it. The guys who race know it's part and parcel. If you see a gap, you're going to take it. I think most of us agree we'd all probably do the same. I didn't run Monaco. I ran, I think it was 8 seconds or 9 seconds slower than my season's best. I ran like 3:39 or 3:40, and there was just no reason for a performance that bad. So my coach actually called me up. I spoke to a lot of people, and they actually thought I had mental issues. They thought there was an issue with my psych. So of course I knew there wasn't any mental issues. I just knew I was struggling with breathing, but I thought it was post-COVID, and I also thought it could have been because I'd been so consistent, more consistent than I've ever been in my entire career, and I just assumed that it was just an accumulation of training fatigue. And of course you find out that I get tested, red flags go up, I'm then put on a course of antibiotics, and within about 5 days, boom, I get rid of the issue. But in the mix of that, I then started to go super healthy, tried to start juicing and stuff, ended up poisoning myself before the race, but still ran okay considering, still ran very well. But at that point I didn't have the chest infection, and then I went on to run a bit more. I had the Olympics just before that, still ran okay at the Olympics considering I didn't clear the chest infection, still ran very well considering. Enough of 5-day call up, you can't knock my Olympics. I know people say that I've had a few opportunities, but I seized mine that I had. Take everything with a pinch of salt. Don't let anyone tell you you underachieved, because everyone has a story and everyone has a path, and you can't predict how it's going to go. Some have more smooth sailing, some have better planning, some have better coaching, and some are just simply better athletes. You just roll with what you've got, and I played the cards I had, and I underperformed, but I cleared the chest infection and then bloody ran 3:51 on the road. The one thing I have to say is I don't know why I ran as bad as I did in the Diamond League final. I haven't figured out that one. Physically felt great, thought I was going to perform, and yeah, I underperformed. But I do think that because I think I've always had the mindset that I have to push super hard all the time, because I've had so many injuries over the years. I think I have to cram it in, because I've always thought I'll get to 6 weeks and I'll be injured again, so I train as hard as I physically could every time to try and play catch up, and then that's followed by cross training as hard as I could. It's a vicious cycle. And yeah, there we have it. That was the season in a nutshell. The next phase is to be stronger than I've ever been. I mean, I know my speed's there, but I just can't be competitive with these guys while I'm not as physically strong in terms of conditioning. So I want to see if I can run a bit more, maybe get up to 70 miles, 80 miles a week. And it'll be interesting to see how I perform off of the back of that. I think it'll be fascinating, because the reality is all of the 15 boys wouldn't be able to come out anywhere near me in a sprint. I mean, I'm not being big-headed, I would be the quickest. I am the quickest, but they're way stronger than me, and their attributes outweigh mine, which is why they run so much quicker. I think that's the biggest thing I can change amongst the running a bit more, becoming more efficient. If I can do that, then I think that's where the biggest gains are to be made. And on that note, we have a camp in about 6 to 8 weeks, and we'll get strong. We'll get stronger than I've ever been. Keep it short and simple. And we've got Iris, Carl Doyle. He's joining our group on a more permanent fixed basis rather than just training camp. So we've got another young whippersnapper called Alex Riley, who's joining us also. And I've done all of my training by myself pretty much for the since George Mills left our group. I've pretty much trained alone, because Dan Rowden's such a speed demon and I'm so much more of like endurance based. We never met in the middle, and whenever we both could train, the other one was always injured for the last 2 years. So it's gonna be nice to have training partners, because I haven't had them, and I haven't had anybody match me in training for God knows how long, since George Mills. So Cafo's stronger than me. He's put me away many times, and I think it'll be good for me, because I'll be questioning life, which is a good thing. And the next camp is in Dolstrom. I think we're planning to go out early November. So if there is anyone, open invitation, if there is anyone out there that would like to join us on our training camp in Dolstrom, hit us up, because we're an open group, we're not a closed group. We're not going to shut the door to anyone. Don't get me wrong, you've got to be useful to us, can't be a disturber of the vibe we have. But if anybody does want to join, just hit us up, open invitation, drop me a message on Instagram. In fact, if you are interested, message my coach Rambi. He hasn't got an ego. He's not like your typical coach who doesn't want anyone else around them. I think he's all about more togetherness and wants to see us be better, because he recognises that if you train with the best, you race better. Kind of the fact we train hard, race easy. Not train hard physically, but train hard and smart. Any takers, hit us up. If we can get a big group out there, I'd love it. On that note, let's end it there. We'll catch up in the next video. Meg, can you slow down? I need another wee again. Babies are out, Tug's okay, Meg's still riding. Time for a wee and finish off the run. See you next time. Just subscribe, it helps me. See you then.